15,000 years ago, North America was a vast, untouched wilderness. There were no cities, no kingdoms, and no human footprints. Anyone stepping into this landscape had no maps to guide them, no roads to follow, and no established infrastructure. They were entirely on their own, completely vulnerable to the elements. During the Ice Age, massive amounts of Earth's water were locked in glaciers, causing sea levels to drop. This exposed a wide land bridge connecting Asia to North America called Beringia. Small groups of hunter-gatherers crossed it, following migrating animals. These people did not know they were entering a new continent. To them, they were simply chasing their next meal, moving forward to survive. But this accidental crossing forced fragile human communities into the ultimate survival test within an entirely alien world. As the global climate slowly warmed, the enormous glaciers of the Ice Age started to melt and retreat. This opened up physical pathways, allowing early humans to push deeper into the North American interior. What they found was a geography of intimidating scale. They faced endless, dense forests, river systems wider than they had ever seen, and mountain ranges that seemed to stretch on forever. Every single day brought immediate threats. The weather could turn extreme at a moment's notice, and the landscape was actively hunted by giant apex predators. Because they were totally isolated, there was no margin for error. A sudden storm or a single miscalculation with a wild animal usually meant immediate death. To stay alive in prehistoric America, early humans waged a relentless, daily battle to secure enough calories to avoid starvation. Their primary targets were massive. To get a high caloric payoff, hunters went after the woolly mammoth, risking their lives against an animal whose sheer size and giant tusks dwarfed a human being. When they weren't hunting mammoths, they tracked other dangerous megafauna, like the prehistoric giant bison, which possessed thick, upward-curving horns and a heavy, muscular frame. But large game hunts often failed. When they did, the community relied on women and children who foraged for roots, nuts, and edible plants, providing the vital baseline calories that kept everyone alive. Survival also demanded efficiency. Nothing was wasted. Animal skins were turned into clothing, and as you can see here, bones were meticulously carved into specialized tools, like barbed points and sewing needles. Feeding a community meant exhausting every single resource they could extract from the local plant life and the giant animals they managed to bring down. Humanity's physical bodies were slow and weak compared to Ice Age predators. Their primary evolutionary equalizer was their technology. Using flint, they crafted processing tools. These rough stone flakes functioned as scrapers and primitive blades for butchering meat. Over time, they developed more specialized weapons. These sharp, aerodynamic spear points required deliberate flaking techniques, allowing hunters to strike from a distance. Controlled fire was equally crucial. It gave them the power to cook their meat, stay warm in freezing temperatures, and keep nocturnal predators away from their camps. Mastering these raw physical technologies, shaping stone and controlling flame, formed the literal barrier keeping humanity from extinction. Yet weapons and fire were only half the equation. The ultimate survival mechanism for early humans was the social structure of the family unit. The campfire acted as a prehistoric classroom. Here, elders passed down highly detailed hunting blueprints, seasonal knowledge, and survival skills to the next generation. They also developed a spiritual framework where animals and the natural environment were respected as sacred forces that provided life and sustenance. By combining this shared cultural knowledge with powerful community bonds, early Americans ensured their long-term survival far better than a single hunter ever could on his own. This map tracks their expansion over thousands of years. As generations passed, groups spread outward, moving south through melting glacial corridors and coastlines. Splinter groups settled in vastly different environments, adapting to scorching deserts, massive mountains, and dense forests. Because they were geographically isolated, these distinct communities naturally developed entirely unique languages, traditions, and tools. These diverse, isolated groups are the direct ancestors of the complex Native American societies that eventually stretched across the continent. Their grueling, step-by-step expansion across a hostile landscape laid down the foundation for all subsequent human history in the Americas. What they accomplished is incredible. Against statistically impossible odds, small, isolated families walked into an unknown wilderness and made it their home. Yet major questions remain. We still don't know the names these people gave themselves, or exactly how their small family groups eventually organized into larger nations. Evidence of a more unified identity appears 13,000 years ago with the Clovis people. Their standardized tools suggest the arrival of America's first widespread, complex society. Understanding how the Clovis expanded and why they eventually vanished reveals the origins of later cultures in North America. That story begins in our next episode.